Hello, and welcome to Explore the Neuroverse. Hello, and welcome to Explore the Neuroverse. Today we have Georgie with us. Georgie is a friend of mine. Happy birthday, Georgie. We were out last night for your birthday, so we might be a little ropey today, but we'll get through it. So, Georgie, you run an agency here, right, in Dubai, but you also have dyslexia, right?
Correct, I do.
Was dyslexia your first understanding of any form of neurodiversity, or had you heard of it before that?
I'd never heard the word, if I be honest with you. I think I've only really started to learn the word neurodiversity since really knowing you, because I think you talk a lot about it, but I'd never kind of understood that bracket or how it worked.
Like the umbrella term. Yeah, okay, cool.
So, but I knew obviously dyslexia and ADHD and autism and those kind of words, but I'd never really heard that word before.
Yeah, I think it's only really quite recently that people have started to use the word as sort of an umbrella term of neurodiversity, so that's not surprising. Tell me, how did you come to be diagnosed with dyslexia?
My diagnosis was really funny. So I started at a new school, which was very, very lucky. I went to a school called Hertwood House, and the classes were a lot smaller than the school I went to before, where I was 35 to a class, and they just didn't have, I don't think they had the knowledge on how to spot it or understand it. So at 16, I went to this school and I wrote a paper for media and I wrote a paper for English, and every teacher said, "Can you come and see me?" And I was like, "Oh, this isn't good, is it? This is like my first paper and I'm being told to go and see the teacher." And they said, "I think you've got dyslexia." So I did the test, and it wasn't just dyslexia, it was severe dyslexia, both numerically and English. And they were quite surprised that I was able to get the GCSEs that I managed to get. Good old BBC Bite Size helped me get those GCSEs. So yeah, and fine. I remember my mum sending me a card when they discovered I had dyslexia, saying, "Congratulations, you're not just dappy." So yeah, it was an interesting one. And I think what was brilliant about finally discovering it was they really do embrace it, and they help you learn the tools on how to handle it.
So that in school, then were able to provide you with the accommodations and tools. And so did you have, because obviously we're talking about a while ago, right? Things have changed dramatically in schools. So were they giving you the different coloured transparent covers so that you could read the words better? Like, what did the tools look like?
So I would have my English teacher, when I was doing anything, he would actually spend an extra hour with me a week to really go through, and he would go through how I would describe, say, a book. And he'd say, "If you could speak it, Georgie, this is an A. But the problem is when you write it, this is a D." And so we would really learn on how to try and take the words from my mouth and put it onto a page, because I think that was the real hardest thing. Like, how I talk, I write.
Right, so it's the processing of the language. Yeah, okay.
So that was one. Numerically, I know I struggle. So over the years, I've learnt colours is a massive piece for me. So on all my P&Ls, it's red, green and orange. So I can really understand it.
But you've found ways that you can accommodate yourself, basically.
Exactly. And then like exams, I learnt colours. So I got one of those pens with 5 different colours, and I used to write all my notes in lots of different colour because that would go in. I never understood. I used to do theatre a long time ago, and my mum was like, how can you remember all the lines for a play, but you can't remember your times tables, that kind of thing. And it was because I was highlighting my lines, but I wasn't highlighting my revision notes. So there was lots of techniques and things I learned on the way.
I'm sort of sensing a lot around colour, though.
A lot around colour and a lot around calming my brain. So when you get nervous, so my problem was if I stood up in front of a class, I would get really nervous. And then obviously in dyslexia, they say that when you get really nervous, like a liquid releases across your brain, and therefore you get quite confused, and you get confused because obviously there's a lot going on. So you need tools to calm yourself down so the panic doesn't set in, because as soon as the panic sets in, you'll stutter, you won't be able to read that word properly, and then you get yourself in this
just
cycle.
Like a panic mode, right?
Yeah,
that's interesting. So what do those sort of techniques look like?
So breathing is obviously one, and actually now I do things like tapping. So I do EFT.
See, tell me a bit more about that, because I'm actually quite interested. I've seen it a few times on Instagram and things. So how does that work?
So it's the emotional freedom technique, and it's basically like you tap different points of your body. So you tap your head here, then here, and then on your side of your eye, under your nose, on your chin, then your chest, just under your arm.
Okay,
and you go.
so just sort of working it all down.
Yeah. Or you can just do this. Or you
This
can,
one I like.
This one I really like, and it's
one.
perfect for if you're having a meeting and you feel
for the audience's benefit that's listening, we're holding our forefingers and our thumbs together. When you either rub them or just hold them together, right?
Exactly. So that Rescue Remedy was amazing for things like exams.
Okay.
So Rescue Remedy was very good. As I said, breathing techniques, so like box breathing, things like that. But it's taken a long time to kind of find the things that work for you.
Of course, because it's like trial and error, right? Some things work, some things don't. And how were you finding that information? Is it the school that was giving it to you? You were just seeking it out yourself?
So EFT I found because I broke up with a boyfriend and someone here turned around and said, you need to release this emotion, go and see this woman in Dubai. And I went to see her and it was amazing. And then I started to read about it. And actually, during the current situation of what's been going on in Dubai, I actually did an EFT class with all of the team so they could have a technique on how to deal with anxiety too.
So you did that for your online, presumably?
Yeah, I did it online for all of the
team. For
team.
your team here in Dubai. That's
so
fantastic.
they've all learned how to do it. They've all got the booklet. Some of them were like, what am I doing? And other people really embraced it and were like, this is amazing.
Nice. Yeah. So. I mean, as you say, it has been a really anxious time. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that feeling of uncertainty, the anxiety to have, I mean, as an employer, to look after your people in that way, that's a really good thing.
So we've done breathing as well. So we've done another breathing workshop as well. So all I can do is give people the tools that I know and how I've dealt with stress. And the thing about dyslexia is your brain goes so fast all the time. So you overthink everything. So you have to find these tools to calm down or let you sleep, because turning your brain off is one of the biggest. That's the worst thing for me.
Yeah.
So I think that's definitely one. And also knowing I'm going into a situation where I'm going to have to talk in public, I have to calm myself down, because otherwise I'll speak so fast it won't make any sense. I'll be jumping all over the place.
Yeah.
I can't get the point across.
That's really interesting. Tell me, we've touched on sort of the areas where obviously you found tools with the things that you struggle with or find more difficult, let's say. What are the positive sides of having dyslexia though?
I love the way my brain jumps. Like a client could come in and say, you know, I need a campaign, I'm launching this, and I've got the idea straight away. Like it's just there.
Yeah.
Like I've jumped 20 stages and I know exactly what I'm doing. I can see the picture. I know how to get there. Like everything for me is a picture or a diagram, or it's really thinking on the process, because I've analysed absolutely everything.
Sort of visual processing, as it were.
I do so much visual processing.
Okay, fantastic. So you're quick thinking, creative.
Yeah, creativity is a massive piece. Like I think what's put us ahead probably in the agencies is like, you know, we really do think out of the box, and I love that bit. And when I get to be really creative, I really enjoy it.
Yeah.
But you could take a corporate client that would normally go that route, and we take them that route, and they're quite, you know, the results are really good. And I feel that if we didn't have that kind of thinking behind it, we probably wouldn't create such a challenge to that brand, but actually get those results.
Nice. And you're raising a family at the moment.
I am.
So we touched on this a little bit at dinner last night, in the sense of, because there's been sort of identified genetic links between different neurodiversities, and we were talking about labels, basically, because when we were at school, it was very much being labelled. If you had a diagnosis, you were being labelled with something, and that had quite a negative connotation to it in many ways. But as we understand more and more about the different neurodiversities, with our own children, obviously, when we're getting them diagnosed, it helps us to help them with the support that they have. But obviously, you're raising a family in England and I'm here in Dubai. Do you think that there's still the stigma in England around sort of labels?
No, to be honest, I think it's embraced so much more now.
Okay.
You know, like Amelie's about to go to school and they have like a sensory room. at the school. So if you feel overwhelmed, they'll put you in the sensory room. It's really thought about. You know, you go to a normal Legoland or something, they've got special areas to calm children down, which you would not have seen a long, long time ago.
Sure.
I think nursery point out quite quickly if they have any concerns. I just think the only thing is there needs to be a little bit more education around it. So what I love about what they've done with dyslexia, especially in Europe and starting in the UK, is they created dyslexia as a qualification. So I don't know if you've seen this, but so Richard Branson, Keira Knightley.
Is that something? Forgive me for interrupting you, but is it something like the University of Dyslexia or something that Richard Branson launched? Is that the same thing?
Yeah, it's similar, but
right.
I think it's called dyslexic thinking. I'm not sure what the organisation is called. So on my LinkedIn, if you go to my profile, I have given myself the qualification of dyslexic thinking. And so what I love about what they've done is they've embraced the fact that you need dyslexic thinkers in your team, and it's a qualification, and that's what I love, because for years, you know, I remember doing a quiz with my dad and him being like, "You can't answer that, George, because you're dyslexic." You know, it was his understanding of what dyslexia was totally different to where I am now, where I actually want to hire people in my company who are dyslexic. I want to have more dyslexic thinkers because their brains work differently and it brings out more creativity. But I think all those years ago, there was a stigma, oh, you don't hold your pen properly, you must be dyslexic, or oh, you're too hyper, you must have ADHD. But it was always a negative. And what I absolutely love with what they've done with dyslexic thinking is we are embracing the fact that piece is actually a talent, and it's something that you want to add into your team.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. If you had everyone in your team that was the same, then you wouldn't actually have all the skills that you need to be able to deliver for your clients, right?
Exactly.
And actually, neurodiverse people in general are suited to sort of high-paced, creative workplaces because they work great to deadlines. You know, they're stimulated by that sort of energy, the creativity. And it's actually really important in businesses, I think.
100%. And that's the thing. Like, I think for me, before I even had Catch or even went down kind of running my own thing, I've always had jobs where I've had to think or come up with something creative or be out of the box. And that's what's taken me ahead quite quickly, because I've been able to think a few steps ahead.
Yeah, it's almost like you're faster than the competition.
Yeah, it's like I remember working in an advertising agency in a creative department for an internship. And the creative guy was like, how does your brain work? This is insane. You know, like, how did you just come up with that campaign? I was only 16 years old, but I was really good at that. Same with editing. Like, you put me in front and I start editing a movie. Like, I knew where I wanted the pieces to go. I knew how I wanted it to work. And it is a talent.
Because you sort of see it, right?
But I didn't recognize it. It's only probably in the last 10 years since this dyslexic thinking and seeing this movement that I actually embrace it and say I'm dyslexic. I used to hide it.
Yeah.
I was obviously owning a communication agency.
It's the shift of the narrative, right? Which is sort of coming back to the podcast. It's very much what myself and the three busy brains are doing in terms of trying to reinforce that it's not a bad thing to be different. It's not a bad thing to have neurodiversity. Like, our brains are fantastic. It's just that sometimes we need tools in place to assist with the things that we struggle with. But I mean, people do that anyway, right? If you're struggling with something, you find a solution.
It sounds really weird, but I'd be happy. Like, if Emily has dyslexia, I'm happy for her, because it means she's going to be creative and she's going to have a really fun, creative life.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like she's already got an element, or she's like a mini me.
Yeah.
So it's most likely that she does. But this time round, I will help her so much more because I understand it more. So we're already doing like a little bit of tapping with her superpower and all of these things. So I'm already kind of working with her.
Yeah, and it's all
positive
what you're saying to her, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. We touched a little bit on tools and so on, but I know you're a big fan of various AIs to help you to do your job. I mean, how has AI facilitated do you have difficulties with like muddling words back and front, the letters? Do you see them bigger, smaller? Like, how does it impact you?
And there is the worst thing for me.
I literally,
that drives me up the wall. for years, I work in restaurant PR, but I struggled so hard to spell the word restaurant. Literally, like got to the point where in our old office, someone wrote it on a board for me because obviously this was before AI existed and stuff. So I would actually just have it in front of me all the time.
Yeah.
So
there are some words that just don't stick, right? I mean, Yasser, my husband, he has dyslexia as well. And he was saying in the car on the way here, he's like, I can never get to and toe. No matter how many times I tell myself, I don't know the difference. I will always see it the wrong way round, basically.
That's the thing. So like, and we spell words how it's written. I mean, dyslexia, like the most complicated word to spell.
Yeah, really.
Like, come on, it's like torture.
Wasn't a great name. Yeah.
And I think like I could never have been a doctor because I couldn't hardly spell it. Tonsillitis, worst word to ever spell. Like when you're like, oh, I've just been diagnosed with tonsillitis for this week. You know, it takes so long to actually try and work out how to spell it. So I'd say definitely AI has been very, very helpful. I think you just have to, like, the problem I've had in the past is you'll write a message to someone who knows you're dyslexic and will come back and almost correct your English.
That's annoying.
That's the bit that, it doesn't upset me, but it's like, you know who
overlook
I am.
it.
Sorry, mate. Like, but you also, but actually sometimes I do if I'm rushing or walking and I write a text message. I love my sister, but she will go, I haven't got a clue what you just asked me to do. And so then I leave her a voice note. She goes, okay, got it. I've got it now.
But that in itself is a tool, right? So actually and Yasser's the same, for dyslexic people, the fact that you can send voice notes to people means that you don't have to sit there sort of trying to spell all the
voice
things.
Voice notes, 100%.
Yeah.
So yeah, voice notes, AI has definitely been very, very helpful. So one of the things I constantly do is I put my emails into AI. I say, don't change the word, just check the grammar and the English for me. And that's really helpful, really, really helpful. Also, you know, things like in meetings now, you've got AI. So you can go back and say, what did I just say then? Like you can remember what you said, but you know, actually how I just said that was really clever. And then it can come back. So it's funny because I now go back to, you know, A-level George doing English literature and my English literature teacher saying, I wish you could have said your A-levels. I wasn't allowed to do coursework. It was just fully 4 exams, 3.5 hours long.
But nowadays, I think they do provide that, right? So there's obviously categories in terms of what assistance you can get. I think they call them accommodations when it comes to exams.
So I got used to get extra time, but everything was down to that day. And as I said, if I was able to speak it, I would have got an A. So now I'm able to really get out what I'm trying to say and be able to put that on paper, which is really, for me, it's enlightening. So
that, and it's fast, right? Because your brain is fast, so you need things to happen fast. And I don't know about you, but if I'm in a pitch, I'm very much in the moment. So I don't necessarily remember all the detail as what's happened. So to be able to have those transcriptions afterwards is really helpful.
I don't know what's happened to my brain, but the crazy thing, the detail that I can remember, like I could walk away and be like, last week we talked about this, there was a point here, and I can remember it. And one of my team will be like, no, that's not what they said. I said, that's 100% what they said. But I'm able to now go back to the minutes and look up that word and know they said that word and say, see, that's what they said. This is what we need to put into the strategy. So what is quite good is I think dyslexia for everybody is different to however you are trained to deal with it or however your brain works.
I think every single person's experience of their own neurodiversity is remarkably different. No two people are the same.
Exactly. Well, so my husband, he's not numerically dyslexic. He's so clever with numbers, but he does have a problem from an English point of view with dyslexia. Like, so I'm sure our daughter does have dyslexia. However, his dyslexia is very different to mine, and I think that's the difference. But I think I've trained my brain now to almost like create images when people are talking. So when I go back to the memory, I'm able to see the picture and then remember that detail.
Yeah, visual memory.
It's really quite... actually, my brain, I think I've trained it. It works so much more than what it did when I was doing those GCSEs.
Well, isn't that the point that I think ultimately what you're saying with over time is that you're learning more and more about yourself and providing yourselves with the tools that you need, not because there's something wrong, but because it makes you even better. Yeah. I mean, you're already brilliant, your brain is creative, and there are all these tools available now that can actually help you to excel rather than, as you said, the more negative connotations. Having dyslexia is a positive thing. Your brain is fantastic, it's really, really creative, And then there's all these other tools that you can find. And obviously it's a journey, right? Because you don't instantly know, and you don't understand yourself as a child either. As we get older, we're understanding ourselves more and more, what we need from a well-being, from tools, et cetera, et cetera.
Exactly. Well, as a kid, so I would be in class and the teacher would say, stand up, George, read this for me. And I would stand up to read. And because there was no colour on it, I would stutter. And so, I would have to stutter through that paragraph that I'm having to read to the class, and then I would get nervous. So, standing up and reading in assembly or whatever. But then in theatre, I got to be a different character, and so I was fine with that. But it was really weird. And then stage fright really crept in when I was about 17, and it stayed for a very long time. And it's only now that I feel like I'm starting to find the tools not to get as nervous. But
so on that. You sort of pushed yourself into the forefront quite recently, right?
Yeah.
And you went on stage and sang. Where was that again?
Oh, so I had a business coach and he said, what do you regret? And I said that I stopped singing because I love singing. Like I might not be a good singer or whatever, but I just love it. I feel like it's a release. And so he said, well, what stopped you? And I said, I don't know. So then I signed up for singing lessons. So then my teacher was like, right, we're doing a showcase. We do it every single year. And you sing 2 songs. And I was nervous. I was really, and the biggest thing I was nervous about was forgetting my words. I wanted to do a Coldplay and write all the words on my hand just in case. I was like, please, can I get out with words? He's like, you will remember the words. And actually, when I got out of my head and just sung, I remembered the words. But if I get into my head, I forget the words.
Oh, to be fair, I'm a little bit like that as well. Yeah, it's that sort of, well, how much you let your nervous system take over, really,
exactly.
Right? And you've obviously got methods with the tapping, breath work. What does breath work look
Rescue
like?
remedy, like a whole bottle. Breath work. So the breath work's brilliant. So box breathing's quite good. So you can go in for 12. Out, hold again, and then out. I think it's about 14, so you can make it longer. But for me, it's like different things. I got taught another one where you breathe in, and then you breathe in again more. So like you feel your lung, and then you feel your lung more, and that just relaxes you. So
that's interesting.
I
feel like I almost just did that.
Yeah,
as you were saying it.
It says you're in a safe place. That's all you're doing. You're telling your body I'm in a safe place, and then the liquid doesn't release. You don't get all nervous. You don't get all flustered, and because I actually even think about it when I was a kid, I'd get so nervous and I didn't have these techniques. I would go so red, and people would be like, "Why are you going so red?" And that would be like my telltale sign. And then I'd go, "Why are you going so red?" And then I was like, "I'm getting red." I don't like the kid in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory when she turned purple. I'm like that in redness, like so red. So
wow. Yeah. Well, I mean, you're getting over it now, right?
I do feel like I'm.
But you have to continue to work on all of these things, right? It's not like there's some simple solution. You've got to put the effort into and putting yourself out of your comfort zone as well. So not letting that sort of nervousness, anxiety to sort of get in the way and hold you back, right?
Yeah, and I think dyslexia teaches you resilience, and I think it teaches you to constantly challenge yourself, because all your life, all you are done is challenged. You're challenged and challenged and challenged, and that little bit more, because people don't realise that you've got dyslexia, or they don't realise how hard it is for you. So, when you're at uni and you're having to write a paper, it's not as easy as it is for everyone else. So the ones who are boshing it out at midnight and walking down there at 5 o'clock in the morning and handing it over and then going to the pub. I'm not. I've been doing it for 3 weeks and I still haven't finished it. I'm still not happy with it and things like that. And I think that's the thing, like, you're never satisfied, because you always think I could do that a little bit better. I think that's one. Resilience in the sense that you always feel like someone's going to put you down. Because I'll be honest with you, like, I think not knowing I had dyslexia until I was 16 was very hard for me, in the sense that people didn't understand who I was, and I didn't understand who I was, and I didn't understand why am I in the lowest maths group and why can't I do this. And I remember, like, my mum, bless her, but even when I was a kid, she was like, I've got 5 pencils and I take 2 away, like 2 away, George, how many have I got? And I was like, I couldn't get it. And I think that's where I did have it quite tough. And I think my dad, he definitely really struggled with the thought of me being dyslexic, especially when the dyslexic teacher told him that it was inherited from the father's side for the daughter. I think he almost threatened to sue.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So
but what was it about
happy.
you being diagnosed that bothered him?
I think he's very clever, and he's got a high IQ, and I think he didn't understand dyslexia, so he thought it was just stupid people.
Right.
You know, and I think you get that. That's the one label you do get. Oh, you can't spell, you can't do this, or you're stupid people. And that's what I love, again, about what dyslexic thinking's done, which is we've moved away from that word.
Yeah. And with the dyslexic thinking, is there something you have to do for that, or you just are?
So you can go on your LinkedIn and you can just put it as a qualification.
You just put it as a qualification because it's recognised for all of its benefits.
Exactly. Well, if you look at the percentage of entrepreneurs that have ADHD and dyslexia, like it demonstrates that neurodiversity piece is
fast-thinking, creative minds are not a bad thing, definitely in business.
Exactly.
Yeah. So before we finish the episode, I would also like to talk about your passion project. It's not really under the umbrella of neurodiversity, but it is quite fantastic. And it's the fact that you have a creative mind and that you can see things slightly differently that sort of brought you to Mum Love, right? Yeah. So could you, for the audience, just tell them a little bit about what Mum Love is?
So I had a beautiful baby and it was amazing, but I got very lost. Dyslexia, I overthink. So I had a helicopter brain. I would analyse the room so much when she was in it, or what could happen, and I exhausted myself. I felt lonely, but then why do I feel lonely? I shouldn't feel lonely. And I just got very lost in the emotion of becoming a mum and not recognising that my identity had changed. And I think we sometimes don't even realise our identity's changed, because we've worked in that job or we've been with that person. We're not with that person anymore. Yeah. And when I became a mum, I don't think I recognised that my identity had changed. And then as I went along, I found out a lot of mums haven't done that. So we're still in a process of what do you call it? So people don't want to call it an identity crisis because they don't like the word crisis. And with the stigma of postnatal depression and postnatal anxiety, people don't want to talk about that. So I'm going to call it maternal transformation. And we change as people the moment we have 100%. That child.
Yeah.
And it is utterly amazing, but we don't recognise it. So for 9 months, I didn't recognise it. So I created Mum Love to make sure every mum understands maternal transformation. And I went to Downing Street and I ran a survey across Britain, and I found that 1 in 7 mums who are pregnant start a role confusion at that point. And what I mean by that is they're not ready to go into that new identity or recognise that there's a new identity coming. Yeah. So they struggle with their role. And, the body is changing, so they don't recognise that.
And none of these things are talked about, right? I mean,
none
ultimately,
of it's talked about.
When I have my children, I mean, it's just you have a baby and then you're sent home from the hospital and get on with it. You're supposed to love it and know what to do with it, and everything changes.
Exactly. So then by the time you go home and that baby, 3 out of 4 mums have some form of role confusion. They are confused about who they are. So that could be through your relationship. Like, do I recognise my relationship anymore? Do I feel about my partner the way I used to feel? And it's not about the fact that you're falling out of love with them. You're falling in love with something else in your life, and therefore your emotions are changing. Yeah. Am I ready to go back to work? Do I want to go out for a cocktail with my friend tonight and leave my baby behind? Do I want to sit and talk about nappies all day, drinking coffee? And we don't talk about this enough. So my whole plan is to find a way to talk to people about this, to understand it is perfectly normal. Now, obviously, I'm not saying if you feel really, really depressed, you definitely need to check it out and make sure it's not postnatal depression. So if you go onto our website, there's actually an emotional tracker where we've worked with pandas to make sure you can actually write down how you feel and take that directly to the doctor. But the whole point about Mum Love is it's a giant hug. So there are letters that you can write as a mum to other mums and tell them how your journey, how you felt, and you can find that these things are perfectly normal. Yeah.
It's a bit like, okay, I'm spreading the word about neurodiversity, but in the same way you're helping hopefully to make people feel not quite so alone in their journey.
Exactly.
And it's much the same for Mum Love, right?
Exactly. And I think the how the dyslexia worked and how Mum Love came about is I'm a fixer. All I've ever done is fix things.
Yeah. Because it's in your nature, right?
It's always been like I've always had to fix my writing. I've always had to fix the way I talk or fix this. And so I've learnt to be a fixer all the way through. And when this happened, I wanted to fix it for other mums. That's all I wanted to do. And I have gone a different route because most people would just, launch a podcast or put an Instagram page up. But I was I want to change policy.
Doing it at government level, policy level, which is amazing. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we are working now with the social and health department to try and create an emotional pregnancy pack, which we would hopefully get into some of the NHS hospitals.
And is it something that you're looking to roll out here in
I'd love to roll
it
out here. I think there's a big gap in emotional support, and I don't think it's anyone's fault. I just think
exactly. It just is.
We've got to look after the baby. It's lost everywhere. Like you look at the US, and actually in Australia they've done, I think it's called Mum for Mums program. So they allocate you a mum to help you in that 6-week window.
Yeah.
So I had a really amazing call with NCT, and they were saying that their website gets hit more between the 0 to 6 week, because that's before they have the checkup. And that's when the mums are lonely.
Yeah,
so
and
really,
looking for information or other mums or something. Yeah.
But Australia's recognised it, and they've got this, I'm sure it's called Mum for Mum program. And it's basically they allocate a mum who's already become a mum to help basically be a buddy and help them through that emotional journey. Because one of the things when I had the call with Pandas was they were like, women need to know that this is happening, but they also need resources on how to deal with it. Not all women. Some women are actually happy just to know this is happening, and other ones actually need resources to help.
They need support.
For me, I just needed to know it was going to happen. I just needed someone to tell
warning.
me.
Yeah.
Because as soon as I heard, for me, it was the word identity crisis. I was like, oh, so relieved.
It makes sense. Yeah,
I'm back in the room.
Yeah. I mean, it's like we were saying about having a diagnosis. In some ways, it just can help you understand. Being forewarned with information helps you to go through a process. And obviously, when you are neurodiverse, your brain is wired slightly differently as well. And that has an impact upon that whole process, hormones, et cetera, et cetera. But how do you cope with presumably you have a crash or a burnout or something like that, because it's very normal?
So obviously, like we talk about all these different things we do, and people are always like, how are you doing your charity? How are you doing your company? How are you flying back and forth? How do you do all these things? And I was like, because I'm dyslexic, my brain can jump from subject to subject. But with that, burnout comes massive. So I do acupuncture, I do homeopathy. I'm very realistic to the fact that my adrenals can really, really get quite deflated. So I really work on that. So I make sure I check my bloods. I'm taking Adeno at the moment, which is, I think I pulled out of a bag last night. Like, what is that?
But what is it though?
So it's got like mushroom in it. It's got magnesium in it. It's got lots of different things to kind of really help support your adenos, so your adrenals.
Okay.
And so I'm very realistic. I take a lot of carc in homeopathy, which is supposed to really help boost you. And I see a homeopath probably every 6 weeks. So she muscle tests me and sees where we are and what I need to do. I'm very realistic with my diet as well. So I can't have more than one coffee. It will just absolutely one. You just don't want to see me that hyper. So one shot of coffee, that's it. So I'm very realistic with what I can and can't do. Obviously with dyslexia and ADHD, they go together. I haven't been diagnosed with ADHD just out of choice. I just, you don't
need it.
I didn't need it. Yeah. I know there's a connection. So I can't have things like fizzy drinks or sweets or whatever because the crash is unbelievable. So there's a lot of elements like that. But the fatigue you get from your brain being that active, I plug myself into a charger. I'm like, right, I'm going to bed early, I'm going to read a book, I'm going to charge.
So you can identify, because it's sort of a cycle, right?
Yeah.
But you know where you are in that cycle based upon what you've going on. And the self-care that you talk about is all very natural, right? Yeah. And do you do that sort of, that's an all the time thing, that the self-care of yourself and your physical and mental well-being is what keeps you going, basically.
Yeah, so acupuncture for me is amazing at calming me down because I'm sometimes a lot in my head. So even yesterday I went for a craniosteopathy at the Heel Hub, and what she's brilliant at doing is getting me out of my head and getting me back into my body. Now it sounds very like, what's that about? But
I get it.
I'm so sometimes in my head that I don't actually even realise I'm in my body, and then I'm running from here to there, planes, da da da. And if I don't look after myself, I will crash and burn. So for me, like I suffer massively from mouth ulcers, like hugely. And that is because I just tire myself out all the time. But over the years, I've learned new tools to deal with it. So yes, I've got EFT when I'm feeling really emotionally overwhelmed. I have homeopathy to just help my body, because what I love about homeopathy is it gives you elements to work with your body. I'm not giving myself a supplement. It's helping actually my body fix the situation, which is what I love. And it's the same with acupuncture. It's just boosting your circulation. It's getting your body to work with you against what's going on.
And if you ever do get to the point where you're truly burnt out, what do you do to sort of give yourself the time to sort of ride through that?
Sleep is a huge thing, but I really chuck myself into healing myself, making sure I'm taking the right vitamins. My mum charges me up, if I'd be really honest. Like just
people do that, right?
Just go and have a cup of tea with her and like having a moan, I think is really important. Sun, I love the sun. I'm really lucky, as I said, I get to do both. Walking is my biggest one. If I feel, sometimes I can feel so overwhelmed. I always say I could probably do 9 things at a time. But if I do more, I'm like a bottle of water and I'm about to overspill. I have to go for a walk, or I just have to come into myself. So, you know me, I'm a bit of a hippie. I love a bit of a meditation.
I agree with you on the walking, though. I think especially during this past period here in Dubai, where it's been 7 weeks of complete uncertainty, walking, I think, is the one thing that has really made a difference for me, because I could feel myself getting really elevated, hyper, because I'm doing 100 things at the same time. And sometimes I just have to be like, I need to go outside and just walk and feel fresh air. And as you say, I mean, it's a miracle. It's really simple, but it really works.
It does. And I think the other thing with dyslexia and ADHD is we can take challenges, because all our life we've been challenged. So in the current situation, it has been so challenging, but we can really dig deep and get through those challenges, because we've been part of a generation. I was like 1980s when this happened, and the people didn't recognize this. So I was just not very clever, or I was not very good at spelling, or, you know, don't give her that.
It's all the negative words that you grew up with, right? And there's a lot of research around children of our generation who, I was very lucky. I grew up in a household where difference was celebrated. So I was never really having that negative reinforcement. Whereas I know a lot of people have grown up constantly being told, you're not good enough, you're stupid, you can't do this, you can't do that. All of the negatives, like repetitively negative. When you've got so much negative reinforcement in your life, it's really, really difficult, because it makes RSD. It causes problems as you go through your life, because you never think you're good enough at that point.
Yeah, it's true. You always feel like someone's talking about you. It's the weirdest thing. Like, because over the years, you know, teachers have been talking to my parents like, oh, you know, Georgie struggles here. Or one of my friends has been like, oh, did you see what they messaged? You know, because I've messaged it wrong, or it's been understood wrong. And also, I literally just open my mouth and I say what I think. I have no filter. Right. So
Nothing wrong with that.
Some people love that, but I do that. And I don't mean to upset anyone, and I don't mean to do anything, but I'm very conscious of that. And I do know that some people don't like how outspoken I am, or the things I say, or how I say it.
But not everyone's going to like everybody else. You know what I mean?
Marmite. You either love me or hate me.
I always say that, totally. I am literally Marmite. I agree with you. Yeah. Where can people find you if they're trying to find information about Mum Love?
So you just type mum-love.com. It's really, really simple.
Okay, perfect.
And we would love for more mums to tell their story for other mums, because, you know, the more stories we can share, the more examples that we can give women will help enormously.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much for coming in today. It's been a pleasure having you on.
It's been fun.
It has, isn't it?
Thank you so much.